Welcome to DPC Pediatrician. We're Dr. Phil Boucher
and Dr. Marina Capella, two DPC pediatricians who are on a mission to share our love of direct primary care with you.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of DPC Pediatricians. Today we're talking specifically about in the startup world or in the growing your practice world. It's often asked, do I need a competitive edge? Do I need something that makes me stand out? Because I'm seeing a lot of people in the pediatric DPC space that are doing all these really cool or different things or really niches. And a lot of people want to do general pediatrics, but in the DPC model. And they feel intimidated or like I need to get all these extra trainings or those sorts of things in order to feel competent and confident and to grow. And so this comes up a lot in the group is like, do I need all these things? I want to practice general pediatrics for now. Is this going to work in DPC? And my take is always, you can absolutely start and grow and maintain and sustain in pediatric direct primary care without having some super specific subspecialty niche or special offering. And there's so many examples of practices across the country. In fact, the majority of the practices across the country are regular old, not to like say that there's anything bad about regular and old, but regular old primary care pediatrics. Yep. That is the base model. That is what the vast majority of people do. And the majority of people that even go on to do more niches start with the general model. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people that find, and I think, Marina, you can talk more specifically about this, that as you grow and as you go, you find specific areas. And I think part of it is that you're not seeing 40 patients a day and you're just like trying to keep your head above water. You have more time to think, to dive deeper with patients, to develop those clinical interests, which then lead to those niches that you might find yourself in. And so maybe, Marina, could you just kind of start and share your journey when it came to, because you do a lot of integrative work, herbal work, myofascial release, clinical hypnosis.
Yeah.
Take me through that journey from where you started to adding all of those different lines of service.
Absolutely. I think you're right that the world of DPC, it has both types. We have people who are just wonderful, lovely, attentive pediatricians who want to spend more time with people. And DPC is a way to do that and really have that relationship-based care. And I know some lovely pediatricians in our DPC community who do just that, and they differentiate themselves through their access and through that relationship. DPC also attracts a lot of us who are interested in more of those niche areas. So for me, I actually had no training specific to integrative medicine when I started, but my heart and soul were saying, there's something here. We've always been interested in like prevention and nutrition and plant medicine. So now is the opportunity to really embrace that. And even if you don't know anything yet, like you're going to figure it out. And so I opened my practice with that name that was very integrative healing arts pediatrics. And there was some trepidation, to be honest. There was some terror of like, what the hell do I think? Like, who the hell do I think I am to be doing this? And how am I going to learn? And what courses do I take? How do I start actually doing it in a way where I develop the confidence? And so I just started where I was. And there were some of those first visits where people came to me asking questions about, like silver and about microbiome testing and about pandas and about these supplements that I'd never heard of. And my inner self was really terrified and was really embarrassed and was like, oh my gosh, do I actually am I fit for this? Can I actually do this? But because I had the time, I could just calm myself and say, I'm not familiar with this, but let me look into it and I'll get back to you. And because in the beginning, it tends to be slow, we usually have that time to do that.
You
and
can do the deep dives.
We do the deep dives and we learn along the way with our patients. Now, in the fee-for-service world with 30 patients a day, I could never have done that. I would have burned myself to a crisp very quickly trying to do that level of care. But for me, I started signing up for the classes. The very first thing, the modality that I was passionate about because it had helped me with my own back pain and with my own plantar fasciitis. And I was like, there's something to this. I got to learn it. Was the myofascial release. And I started going to seminars. And then the seminars were all practicing on adults. We were practicing on each other. And I thought, okay, now I have to apply it to kids. And can I do that? So I started just practicing on my friends and family, on my husband, on like anyone, my people in my running group that had like aches and pains.
Right.
And I developed a little bit of confidence. And then I said, I'm never going to develop confidence on kids unless I just start doing it. And that was
Totally.
scary. And at first I felt on the inside like I had no idea what I was doing. But on the
Mhm.
outside, I was like, this is just like learning to do a lumbar puncture for the first time. This is just like ordering
Totally.
your first MRI in residency. Like, you've never done it before, but you're not going to get comfortable unless you just do it. So I was like, look, this is just putting hands on kids. This is not doing any harm. Let me just do it. And I got comfortable really, really quickly, but it just
Yeah.
required stepping through that discomfort of doing it. The same when it came to adding clinical hypnosis. I took the classes, the seminars, first on adults, then on kids. And that was like, okay, I just gotta do it. And I
Mhm.
may trip over my words in the beginning. I may not be perfect, but I'm not going to get better until I do it. And now I feel really confident in it. So it just has taken that willingness to step out of my comfort zone, just like we were thrown into internship and residency. We've
Right.
been through that discomfort so many times as doctors, like
Right.
pre-med years, through medical school, through residency, through our first job. We have stepped through the fire of discomfort so many times. And this is not an insurmountable challenge if you want to end up differentiating yourself in a unique way. It does not have to be integrative. It does not have to be lifestyle or
Right.
functional or autism. It can be anything you want it to be. It can be newborns. It can be, I just really love behavioral health and I just want to focus on the kids who need behavioral health and mental health support. It can be
Mhm.
whatever you want it to be, but you do have to be willing to get comfortable being uncomfortable and just practice
Mhm.
a new skill. And even when it comes to the new skill of spending an hour with your patients, like,
Yeah, that's like I'm so uncomfortable with that.
right? The very first time I had an hour-long appointment after having worked in urgent care, and it is like, "Oh my god, how do I even fill the time?"
Mm.
And I
Right.
quickly
Like,
got
you guys
comfortable.
got any trips coming up? You wanna just, like, take a break and then come back in a little bit? Keep chatting?
Exactly. It comes more naturally to some than others, but, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't given the back to the overall question of do you have to have a competitive edge? In the business world, you have to have something that differentiates you and that makes people want to choose you over the bread and butter pediatrics. But it
Right.
doesn't have to be one particular thing. It doesn't have to be integrative. It doesn't have to be pandas. It can be you just making your personality and your ability to connect with patients really shine through how you present yourself on your website,
Right.
through videos, through social media, through your meet and greets with your family. Like, they feel that warmth and that connection emanate from you, whether you intend it or not. Right.
Right. I think the competitive edge in and of itself is simply that you are not the big organizational children's hospital, large employer group. You are the competitive edge in DPC doesn't have to be any of the specific offerings. It is the way that you practice and the way that you show up and care in those relationships, the ease of access, all the things that we always talk about. That is the competitive edge in and of itself.
Yeah.
So anything above that is gravy and can really help to show what you do and fill your clinical bucket, your interest bucket, and all of those things. But I think I want to reassure people that are listening that are like, can I even do this? That you
Mhm.
don't need to have some super specialty training in order to be successful because the ability to get in touch with the actual person that knows you, the
Mhm.
small patient panel, the ease of access, the unlimited visits, your glowing personality, the funny jokes that you tell
Mhm.
are all that you need in order to stand out and have that competitive edge,
Yeah,
period.
absolutely.
And so
Yeah. Go ahead.
And so everything above and beyond that does give you different competitive edges, but you don't have to feel like, well, I have to do this if I want to do it because people really talk a lot about pandas or autism or ADHD or integrative or all those different things that we often find ourselves in because we have the
Mhm.
time to get into the weeds and find those things that we're passionate about and that we're
Mhm.
interested in. When you were talking about lumbar punctures, I have a very clear memory of the first lumbar puncture that I ever witnessed as a medical student and
Uh-huh.
like how long the setup was. and getting in there and doing it, and then doing it as an intern and being so nervous and it like taking hours. And then I don't even think about that, but like I had to do a lumbar puncture on an infant. And this was when I was in my busy fee for service practice. And I was like, okay, well, just let the other patient know that I'll be a few minutes later. We got everything set up and we did a lumbar puncture just in the middle of clinics before we had to
Yeah.
send them over to the hospital. Like it can go from that stress and that overwhelm and the thinking and the watching the YouTubes to be like, okay, yeah, this is going to add like 10 minutes to this visit. Can you get all the supplies ready and let's do it? You do those sorts of things all the time, and jumping in there is the only way to learn. For
Mhm.
us, one of the things that we have happened upon is pans and pandas, not out of specific clinical interest for me from the start, but because there was no one else doing it. And I
Yeah.
said, I have the time to figure this out and help these families that are in a really tough bind. And the doctors that were doing it both retired in our region. And so it kind of fell upon, or at least I felt like I had to do something.
Yeah.
And in the same way, it's like, yeah, we're going to try this. Yeah, we're going to try this. I'm going to talk to some friends and get comfortable with it. And then a year, 2 years later, like I'm really comfortable with
Mhm.
here's where we start. Here's what we do. Here's how I talk about it. There's 3 pillars for the management of pandas. It's infections, inflammation, and mind support. Those sort of things didn't start that way, but they became much more natural, and I can see the picture much more clear than I could. And it is much less overwhelming for me to take on a
Mhm.
pandas patient now than it was 2 years ago, simply
Yeah.
because I've had enough experience with them and I've gotten more comfortable with it. So I think that that
Mhm.
is something that is really wise, is you just have to jump in and you have to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start piercing ears. I'm going to start seeing integrative ADHD approaches. I'm going to get the trainings. I'm going to talk to Claude. I'm going to figure
Mhm.
these things out so that I can
Yeah.
jump in there and do that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and you don't even have to. I mean, like, you didn't start out your practice thinking, I want to specialize in
Right.
pandas, be a person in the community, because nobody, like, it happened because it just crossed your path and the
Mhm.
opportunity came, and you're a person who likes to learn and is curious and takes charge of things like that. So, and that can happen with any practice, right?
Right.
And things can shift. I think it's okay to recognize that you don't have to have your absolute forever vision of
Yeah.
your practice when you start out. It helps to have a clear vision of what you want to start out with and
Right.
some general principles really set so that you don't unintentionally create something that you don't want.
Right.
But at the same time, things can shift. I actually recently stopped doing autism evaluations because I just felt like that era was over for me.
Mhm.
And I wanted to, because I only 3 days a week in the clinic, whenever I would do those, I would be taking home a few hours of work and I hate it. I
Yeah.
started to like not look forward to it and dread doing those reports.
Right.
And I've learned what I needed to learn from this process. And
Mhm.
now I can recognize it really easily. I recognize the red flags in the
Yeah.
patients who happen to be members or come for consults. Then I
Totally.
can direct them appropriately. But I don't have to be the one doing all
Mm.
of the hard work of the core evaluation itself. So as much as it had its time and its place and it helped me learn and it helped me bring in revenue for a period of time, that era is over. And so I discontinued that page on my website and it's
Yeah.
fine.
Like,
And
we don't even have a pandas page on our website. There's nowhere on our website that you would even get an indicator of it,
uh,
because that's not how people find us for pans and pandas. It's through
yeah,
Facebook groups and from
exactly.
other parents. And so those are things that, like, you can decide how much you want to highlight that as something that you
Sure.
do or
Exactly.
not. And as you said, like, you can go through seasons where you're doing more of that. It served its purpose. It's not for me at this
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future, maybe when my demands and the community demands change, then that's something that we can pick up again.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of seasons, I'm still in the beginning phase of this, but I've decided I want to see a select number of adults for really premium concierge packages of like 3 months, 3 to 6 months.
Mhm.
And that's kind of stepping out of my comfort zone again. That's and it would be sort of like an extra few hours tacked onto my 3 pediatric clinical days a week. But
Mhm.
something just told me recently, hey, this is your next phase of growth. You're still primarily a pediatrician, an
Right.
integrated pediatrician. Though what really sparked that is that all of the tools that I've been using on these complex kiddos, like,
Mhm.
adults need them just as much, if not more, because they have lifetimes of trauma and psychological junk. And
Right.
old wounds and like built up, and they need these modalities. And if somebody else in the community was doing what I do with this
Right.
unique blend of approaches, I would not feel the need to do that,
Got
to
it.
fill that space. I would say, hey, there's so and so and so and so and so and so. But I've had so many parents and people say, is there someone that can do what you do for me? And
Right.
it's hard to say, I don't know of
Yeah, I don't
anyone
know
who,
that person.
I'm so sorry. And so, yeah, that's my next adventure this year, is adding just a couple of clients. It's going to be a handful of clients, of
I
patients at a
think
time.
I mean, I think that's the thing that, like, in a traditional fee-for-service practice, seeing 40 plus patients per day, you just don't have time to
No.
even consider, like, this is a future for me. And then as you get into pediatric direct primary care, you find those things that you're really interested in. Like 3 years ago, I wasn't very interested in ADHD outside of like what I had done for the past decade when it came to the management of ADHD. How's your meds? How's your appetite? Those sorts of things. And now, like, having gotten into it and gotten to learn a lot more, we take a
Yeah.
much more like integrative approach to ADHD. Families love it, and I love it too. Like, it's very clinically
Yeah.
interesting to me, and we
Uh-huh.
get to see and check in on patients on a regular basis. So I think that that wasn't something that I had envisioned, but it has come to
Mhm.
light as something that I really enjoy. And having that
Absolutely.
ability in your career to not be stuck to doing the same thing because you're moving too fast to even slow down and see what you really like is such a blessing that
Mhm.
DPC offers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I also want to mention, so I did a master class on strategy just a few
Mhm.
months ago, and you can find it at dpcpediatrician.com. It's one of the free master classes on our courses page. So lots of other courses as well that are super helpful. But that one specifically talked more in depth about this principle. In my MBA program, I took a class on strategy, and we read this book. I actually have it sitting next to me. It's called The Competitive Advantage. And
Ooh,
the
nice.
professor who taught the course actually wrote this book. And one of the principles in the book was talking about how, in order to have a truly sustainable business, in whatever sense that it has sustainable growth, you have to think about a few principles. And he called them foresight, meaning that you have to kind of be able to predict something about the future, about how the landscape of a certain, business area will change. And in DPC, what we have seen is that the ship of insurance-based healthcare is sinking in some
Yeah,
ways. It's leading to mass burnout, unsustainable costs, all this stuff. So if we had the foresight to say, hey, this isn't sustainable, there has to be a better way, right?
right.
And then you have to have the insight about something unique that you can offer in your community that will provide value to people and that will attract customers. And then you have to have the cross sight to be able to interact with other people and other services in a way that, like networking, for example,
Mhm.
or maybe partnering with another service. Like
Mhm.
in your practice, you have a therapist and you have a lactation consultant and you have, those services that you bring into your practice. So you're working together with others to really enhance what you offer. So that masterclass goes into detail about how that applies to DPC. And the reason I did that is because DPC in and of itself is a really great model, and in and of itself, like we've discussed today, has competitive edge in the current landscape. But what if
Right.
we fast forward 10 or 20 years and suddenly there are 10 DPC practices, maybe 5 pediatric DPC practices in your city? How
Right.
are you then going to differentiate yourself and have that competitive edge in a sea of more competition? So that's something that we
Totally.
should think about, even if you don't think about it right now. If you have no competition, you should be
Right.
thinking about it in terms of your future sustainability of how am I going to truly continue to attract people even when there are multiple pediatric DPC practices around me. Why will people still choose me over the competition? So
Love it.
that's,
That's
yeah.
such a great that's a good thought. Um, I think, when I was starting my DPC, one of the thoughts I had is if I saw one open in town, I would be so envious. And that was
Uh-huh.
something that I was like, I want to be on the forefront of this. And if I'm not, I'm going to be really jealous. And then I'm going to
Uh-huh.
be playing catch up. And I feel like right now, if you're listening to this and you've been on the fence, like let that last question of hers be the thing that pushes you over and says, well, right now we are not in a red ocean where there's lots of
Yeah.
competition and you're
Right.
competing because they're closer to you or your prices are lower. This right now in pediatric DPC is certainly blue ocean, meaning you don't have competitors and you don't have a lot of competitors, even if, like, I can't think of any city in the country where there's too many DPC, pediatric DPCs. Like, even when you think about Phoenix or you think about Houston, those are huge populations, or, somewhere in Florida. I mean, those are three big sites where there's more
Mhm.
pediatric DPC
Yeah.
than anywhere else. That is still a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of the overall market. But
Yes.
if insurance continues along this course, which all signs point to,
Yes.
keep keep paths and go, then there might be more competition in 5 or 10 years. So if you're like, I've been thinking about starting, get off the fence right now and make that
Mm.
decision, because it's going to be much easier now than in 5 or 10 years when there's three
Yeah.
pediatric DPCs in your community or something along those lines. And then you're fighting over the location or you're fighting over price or those sorts of things. Like right now, it's wide open for you in your
Uh-huh.
community. And so I think the last point that I'll say regarding the question of do you need a competitive edge is no, you don't need a competitive edge. Like, you don't need a special training or a niche or anything along those lines, but you do have to then show what your competitive edge is
Mhm.
over the parents' minds about a regular general pediatrician who they're comparing themselves to. When you think about it in general, like if I'm going fee for service, I'm going to look on my insurance card and then I'm going to go to the website. I'm going to see, okay, there's this office and this office and this office, and I don't know anything about them, but I assume that they're all similar in the way that they're set up and the things that they do and the things that they offer. And I'm going to pick the one that's closest to me, or I'm going to pick the one that
Mhm.
has the most availability that matches my schedule or something along those lines. You need to show how you stand out on a regular basis to the people that need to hear from you, how you actually stand out compared to the competitors who all look the same in the phone book but
Mhm.
are geographically more convenient to your patients. So you do
Yeah.
have to show that on a regular basis as to how you stand out to grow your practice. It is easier in some ways when you have a specific niche that then you can appeal to, and you can say, I'm really interested in all these ADHD patients, and so you are segmenting yourself into where do ADHD patients parents hang out and what do they have
Mhm.
questions about and those sorts of things. That does make it easier in some ways to stand out, but you do not have to have that specific niche in order to stand out. But you do have to get out there and share how you stand
Yeah.
out compared to the competition, which there are certainly
Right.
ways that you stand out and compare to the competition, not just being cheaper, not just being location wise easier for
Mhm.
families.
Yeah, I echo that 100 times over, because that is where I feel like people have trouble, and that's in the whole realm of marketing. How do you market
Hmm.
yourself? How do you make your value proposition really clear to people so that if they
Right.
spend 3 seconds on your website, they know why you're different and why they should choose you? And that's the art of marketing and the trick of
Right.
marketing. And that involves stepping out of your comfort zone and really showing your personality, which we've never had to do before when, we worked for a big practice and it was just like, well, your insurance assigned me and I just come here, or I just
Totally.
randomly called and got a first appointment and I like
I
you.
just
And so,
called and yeah, I just called and they
yeah,
were you were open to new patients, and here I am
exactly.
in front of you. Yeah, very
Exactly.
different.
So,
Well, to end on, I want to make sure that y'all are aware, because we don't do a lot of ads on this show, and one of the things I want to make clear is there are ways that you can work with Marina or I if you're wanting more help. If you go to DPC Pediatricians, you'll find a button where you can do a consult with us, which is hopping on a call, talking through what you're facing, and getting help so that you can get unstuck if you're stuck, or if you need extra help when it comes to a specific thing that you're offering, or you just want to test the idea. That is literally what we are here for. So go to DPC
mhm.
Pediatrician and check out the consults button to book a call with Marina or I.
Yeah, and there are a ton of other resources, a startup guide, which I'm in the
Yep.
process of updating, and it will be even bigger, even longer and better. And also a lot of courses. You get sign up for a newsletter. I spend time creating 2 really great articles every month in that newsletter that are specific to DPC pediatrics. So, yes, if you're not part of that community, please become part of it. We would love to have you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And until next time.